はい、それではチーム7番目、神戸女学院高等学部、江島由香子さん The Right to Marry。
When I was a child, I was friends with both boys and girls. I had a close friend who was a boy. One day, I grabbed his hand and told my mother, "When I grow up, I will marry him." My mother smiled at me and said, "Yes, when you grow up." The next day, I was holding hands with a girl who was also one of my best friends. I said to my mother again, "When I grow up, I will marry her." This time, my mother laughed and said, "You cannot marry a girl." My mother was correct. My hope as a child to marry my best friend could not be realized. And sadly, she is still correct. Under current Japanese law, same-sex couple cannot get married. At that time, I just wondered why it was impossible. However, after I became a high school student, I strongly feel that LGBT people should have the same rights. I'd like to ask the audience a question. Are there any left-handed people here? Please raise your hand if you're left-handed. Thank you. So, who has AB blood type? Please raise your hand. Thank you. LGBT is sometimes called sexual minorities. However, according to recent data, 1 in 13 people in Japan identify as LGBT. This percentage is the same that of the left-handed people or people with blood type AB. In other words, those who raised their hand just now, I believe they are no longer sexual minorities. As a member of the society and as individuals around us, LGBT people must not be denied fundamental rights. In Japan, in April, 30 same-sex couples filed lawsuits all at once seeking the same right to marry. In this way, the LGBT individuals are starting to speak up. In addition, the awareness of LGBT is gradually increasing. I'm sure you have seen the news coverage about the recent House of Councillors election in Japan. 6 of the 8 prominent political parties have shown a positive attitude towards same-sex marriage. Furthermore, they have indicated they will move to legally recognize same-sex marriage. I mentioned that under the current Japanese law, same-sex couple cannot get married. Actually, the Japanese constitution does not prohibit same-sex marriage. This article was included in the constitution to ensure the freedom of marriage. Some interpret it as to mean only a union between a man and a woman is acceptable. Others interpret it as agreement between 2 people. According to them, both sexes refer to the people who intend to marry and does not mean only a union between a man and a woman. There are same-sex partnership ordinances which have been adopted in some areas. I believe this is not enough. I am insisting on the need for same-sex marriage because LGBT people are deprived of their rights as a couple. Imagine that you are an LGBT couple with a multicultural background. You are raising children together. If you are a foreigner, you cannot obtain a spouse visa. You cannot have custody of your partner's children. If your partner has been involved in an accident and becomes unconscious, you are not able to make medical decisions for your partner. If your partner died, you don't have legal right to inherit unless your partner has left a will. This system is far from effective. LGBT couples should have the same right to be recognized as a family under the law. Out of the G7, Japan is the only country that hasn't legalized same-sex marriage. In the other 6 countries, by 2017, a system that can give the same principle to same-sex couples and heterosexual couples has spread at the national level. As a member of G7, I think it is time for Japan's marriage system to change. Do you know who this man is? He is a former New Zealand MP. His speech became popular on social networks media in Japan 2 years ago. In this speech, called the Big Gay Rainbow Speech, he explained that legalizing same-sex marriage is just accepting the marriage of 2 people who love each other. He said that that same-sex marriage does not have any negative impact on unrelated people. He told that the world will just carry on. I heard this speech and finally realized what the opponents were afraid of. They were afraid that something bad would happen to themselves. This speech reassured those who are scared. LGBT couples will be allowed to marry, and our daily life will continue uninterrupted. If so, is there any merit to opposing same-sex marriage? There is nothing to gain by disturbing those who wish to be happy. If we support each other's happiness as human beings, we can change our world into something richer. If we want to make a change and support the LGBT community, here are the steps you can take. First, don't laugh when LGBT people are made fun of on TV and other medias. Your reaction may hurt the LGBT people around you. As I said, 1 in 13 people are LGBT. If there is someone who uses being LGBT as a joke, tell them that those jokes aren't funny. It's 2019. Second, vote for the political parties which have shown a positive attitude towards same-sex marriage. If many people do so, the government will reflect opinion and change the law. Third, use or wear rainbow goods where people can see. I used rainbow colors on this slide. The rainbow is a symbol of sexual diversity, and showing off rainbow goods is an indication that you have no bias towards LGBT. These steps are not difficult to take, and you can start today. Finally, here is Article 14 of the Constitution of Japan. The Constitution supports LGBT people. All of the people are equal under the law, and there shall be no discrimination. Here, all of the people means everyone, including LGBT people. It is us who create the future. We must make a change. Let's support the right to marry. Thank you.
はい、ありがとうございました。それではご質問どうぞ。はい、吉健先生どうぞ。
Thank you very much. I think it was a very, very interesting and a very important speech that you made right now. I think there are other things, the rainbow color that you showed at the very end. It's not just same-sex marriage and LGBT, the problem that you mentioned, but there are many things about diversity in the world that needs to be corrected and to be remedied. Can you give a few more examples of other cases where people might have problems accepting the reality that exists, and yet you think maybe this should also be changed? For example, illness. There are many things which are related to health problems, sickness,
Age, physical
the age
handicap.
problems also. I'm getting very old at the present time. But are there other kinds of examples that you can give to talk about this equality, this fairness?
Sorry, some examples is what is illness or sorry, what you mean to are you want me to show more example to
Aside from the problem that you mentioned about marriage, I think there are many other problems. And I was, I wanted to see if you were aware of some other problems that also had to be changed.
Because
Just to give you an example, for example, we're talking about age. I'm getting old, but I have to retire. Why do I have to retire when I hit a certain age? I can work as well as anybody else, even if I'm 80 years old. But I still have to retire. Why? Do you think that's fair?
accepting their same-sex marriage is my my fairness for LGBT people. Yes, because surely there is many problems for LGBT community, but in other countries, many people want to marry, and they made a success for their what they want. And I want to be a person who makes success for Japanese LGBT couples to marry.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you very much.
はい、じゃあ野原先生どうぞ。
Thank you very much for raising such an important issue to us. Imagine if you have a classmate
Yeah.
at school who's facing some kind of discrimination against the LGBT problem
Yeah.
because he or she has, let's say, existential feature. As a friend at the class, what attitude would you show? Is there anything you can do at school?
Okay, at school.
If someone's facing ijime because of LGBT,
To think that case, I'm too. Our classmates are too kind, but these problems causes by we don't have enough knowledge of LGBT communities. So I want to make an opportunity to tell them that the reality of LGBT people. Thank you.
okay, thank you very much. Very important.
はい、ありがとうございました。ね、13人に1人っていうのはね、すごい、効果的なプレゼンテーションをされたなっていうふうに思いました。ありがとうございました。